growing up, we have always been surrounded by like material, colorful material, cloth. So we'll do headscarves, and this can be tied a million ways.
Oh,
It can be in different sizes, this small, that long, square, triangle, whatever shape.
oh, okay.
And then you can just have fun with it.
The following is a long, open conversation with Thandiwe Gondo, an experienced professional in the tourist industry with ventures in AgriTech and currently is the co-founder of Runako brands. We got the chance to sit and talk about many topics, like which are the little differences in the tourist industry in both Malaysia and Zimbabwe, which has been the main lessons that she acquired during her experience in the United States, which has been the main discoveries she found in Southeast Asia, and which will be the future of the African woman in both in and outside the region. This is On the Lawn with FVR podcast. If you like this thing, feel free to like and subscribe and to contribute to the channel on the description below. And now, your featured presentation. Well, I guess we're ready to do this, right?
Let's go.
Yes. 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode on the Lawn with FVR. Today we have Thandiwe. Thanks for doing this.
Of course, most welcome.
So, people want to know about your journey, and especially how it was so many tries to ask you to finally convince you to be in this program. we forgot how many times, but I'm happy that you're here.
I'm honored and glad to be here. Thank you, FVR. Yeah, it's a crazy schedule that we have, and sometimes you just fail to commit, right? But I'm glad that finally we found time to be here. Hi, everyone. I'm Thandi, and what am I sharing about myself?
Yeah, tell us a little more about yourself.
Sure, I'm Thandiwe Gondo. I come from a very beautiful country called Zimbabwe. And I'm currently here doing my MBA, like he is, at Asia School of Business. And yeah, I'm here on the lawn.
Yeah, we were supposed to be on the lawn, but I guess that the series
on the red lawn.
Oh yes, the red lawn. The series has been evolving, and now we happen to be like kind of the mothership, a spaceship. He's supposed to be the ceiling, so he's getting there. Now, given that you mentioned this place is Zimbabwe, some people may hear, okay, somewhere in Africa, but Africa is too big. So where is Zimbabwe for the people who are not aware, and in which city?
Okay, sure. So Zimbabwe is in the southern part of Africa. So we're right at the bottom. So when you look at the African map, we're right like closer to the bottom where South Africa is. We have Zambia there. We have Mozambique as our neighbors. We have Botswana as well. So if you look at that bottom of the map, that's where we are. But I come from a very small city. So the capital is called Harare, but I stay in a very smaller city. It's actually the third biggest, but we still consider it small. It's called Gweru, and it's like in the Midlands of Zimbabwe. So we're at the center. So it's like one of those cities that you have to pass no matter which direction you're going. If you're crossing from Harare to, let's say, another city called Bulawayo, you have to pass my hometown.
Given that perspective, I would like you to take us back in time to the moment that John Thandiwe was growing up. So, how was those years back then?
Wow, that's broad. It depends, right? Oh my gosh, that was. I would say I grew up in a very family-knitted place. I think our kind of culture is very home-based. So we do a lot of cooking together, eating on the table together. Even though like parents works, kids are at school, but at the end of the day, everyone comes back home. And that was at least a fair bit of my younger childhood life, always having family around me. And then later on, I went to a boarding school. So this was high school time. How old was I? Maybe 12, 13? Yeah. Teenage lipping out of the home. You know, they were like, okay, now I think it's actually like a norm in Zimbabwe or in our culture to do boarding. Majority of people would go to boarding school. And yeah, that was like transitioning in life from being this child into like a teenager, and you're surrounded with a different group of people, and you just learn and you just grow. um, but I think it was great because it made me more courageous to be away from my known environment. And I think when I trace back now, I'm like, maybe that's what gave me courage to even be abroad and say, hey, I want to take up that challenge. How about I hop on a flight?
Oh yes, it's like those early years helps to build character, even more than
Yeah,
we believe nowadays.
I agree.
Now, you mentioned about taking the leap and going abroad, and I'm led to believe that you went to many places, right? But there was a part of your background that fascinated me a lot.
Uh-huh.
That you went in Malaysia way before starting this program. So
Exactly.
how was your walk through decision to say, okay, where I'm going now?
I think a few things. It was definitely through a lot of guidance. So I did a foundation program back in Zimbabwe. So after the high school, I did my O levels. Did not do so great on my O levels, but anyway, I went into a foundation program. So I skipped A levels instead of doing 2 years A levels. I did 1 year foundation program, which was an Australian matriculation. But this school facilitated international colleges. Like it would actually help their students to be engaged or to search or to apply to like schools abroad from Canada, the States, UK, Malaysia, you name it. Okay. So, of course, they gave me options. They told me, okay, your budget can fit into this. How about you try Malaysia? So I did. I applied to a few Malaysian universities and got accepted into one called Segi University, which is in Kota Damansara, if of you would know. And that was way back in like 2015. And that's how I started my journey.
Wow, and it's impressive because from our personal experience and also from the friends who has been in the podcast, I realized that for some reason it's very difficult to see people from Africa in this region, especially when they want to travel, let's say, to Indonesia, Vietnam, or Thailand. And given that you have this experience already, it's already remarkable. And I have to say this very emphatic because not many people have the opportunity, and even if they have it, time pass
Right,
by and they don't remember or realize.
exactly.
So in Sigi University, what did you learn? Which skills you crafted right there?
So it was a bachelor's degree in tourism, international tourism and hospitality management. And I think that was also a nice way to get to travel within Malaysia. And I think those were the few years I managed to actually see most of the states in Malaysia. And then of course having also some international trips. And like you're right. It's a privilege and an honor to have been able to have gotten that opportunity, because it's not something that is vast to everyone, right? I mean, yes, of course, now more opportunities are mushrooming up. People can get like scholarships or any other means, right? But to actually just have that opportunity, it's 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 special, and I never would take it for granted. But yeah, I was a tourism student, doing all things tourism, from the hotels to the resorts, just learning. It was more theory based. I mean, comparing to what we have now in ASB, right, which is more on the practicals. So it was a lot more theory, just understanding hotel management, tourism, and the likes.
This is very insightful because at the beginning I thought that tourism was like going to trips, but you are also describing hotels, resorts, and I believe there is some management in between.
Yeah.
So how difficult is the management between a typical inn, an hotel, or a resort?
Oh man, like The hospitality industry is very broad. It's very broad and very different. You can have a whole course on just the cruise ship side. You can have a whole system for just the hotels and resorts. It could, it could actually. It's not even like a copy paste.
Okay.
It's definitely not a copy paste. The kind of, I mean, skills are interchangeable. We can't deny that, but I think the level of the difficulty, if I can put it that way, or the level of intenseness is different, right? For example, working maybe, let's say, in the corporate kind of positions for hospitality, is kind of feels like every other corporate place. I guess you maybe have your 9 to 5, you have your sales, your finances, your business development. But I think the other side of the hospitality, which is more like the on-ground work, for example, let's say you're a front office person, you probably work maybe 12 hours while others work 8 because I mean, hospitality doesn't sleep, ideally. The industry is supposed to be ongoing because you can book at 2 a.m., you can book at 1, you can book at 10, like there's no like you can only book at this time, right? So that means there always has to be shifts, there always has to be workers on the ground 24/7. So in that sense, it's intense industry. You have to really commit energy, you have to commit time. Really, you just have to put your whole self
Wow.
onto that. So it differs. I'm sure like those on working on cruise, it's also ongoing, right? Like there's no end date, but of course you do get your off days, yada yada. But it's a continuous cycle, nonetheless.
So, given that regard, that the talent is always on constant pressure, that also means that the burnout rate can be a little higher.
I would say so. I would say so, and I think it then takes a lot on the person as a person to know when to say no. In fact, not. I don't know if I can phrase it that way because you have duties to fulfill, right? And you can't always say no. You have to just do what has to be done. But I guess outside of your working hours, you kind of have to really take care of yourself, health-wise, mentally, personal growth, career development. These are things that you cannot just park on the side and say, I don't need it. Because at some point, that burnout will catch up with you. And you'll need to find ways to distress, you need to find ways to relax. So it's very important to, and even having a community, I think that's a highlight to help you through seasons like that.
This is a good point that you mentioned because it's like when you're raising a children, it needs a community.
Yeah.
It takes a community. It's like when you want to build a career, it takes a community. That's why you have professional societies and things like that.
Exactly. There's a statement we say it takes a village to build up a child. And it's true. And I mean, I've come from that kind of a background. Like I mentioned at the beginning, that it's family. It was, you go and you do what you do, school and work, but you always come back to your community. So it's the aunts and the uncles and the brothers and the neighbors and the stranger who stays across, right? Who builds you to be who you are.
So, in that regard, and I have to be clear on this following statement, given that you have a deeper understanding of what is Malaysia beyond Kuala Lumpur. So, which are the states, which are the main differences among the states that you visited during your tenure?
Oh, the food is different.
Okay.
I mean, everyone says Penang and Ipoh has the best food. I think I actually enjoyed food in Kedah, which is Johor, up north, right? Yeah, if I'm not mistaken.
You're the expert here.
No, sorry. Kedah and Johor are cross on different. Johor is when you're going to Singapore. My bad. Johor is when you're going to Singapore. Kedah is the other end of the country, where I think, if I'm not mistaken, their border is Thailand. So that's like the other end of. It's a very small city. I was in Alostar. Very small city, very hot. Oh, it's painfully hot there. But the food, I liked it. Funny enough. And then in terms of Okay, the weather in KL I didn't like. So I would prefer. KL is actually not too bad if you're in a more nature filled place. Not like the building cities where it's like you don't breathe, but when you're around, like around the parks, those are beautiful. Around parks, around nature. In KL, those I love. In terms of what else? The islands, I've managed to see a few, and I think my best one was Perhentian. If you have not been, you should go. Um, and then Batu Batu, which I know you have been to. So those are like my two. Like the water is clear, it's beautiful, it's serene. It just takes you into a different world. So those are like my two favorite islands. Yeah, I think I've seen a fair bit of the country, but more or less the same culture. People are nice, people are friendly wherever you go. So that's cool.
Important to remember that it's true. We both were in the Batu Batu for the practitioner. I guess you can see the video right here. It was like almost 1 week full of analysis and how to solve problems for a resort. Now, that was a resort, and you have
Yes.
experience in resort, tourism, and hotel management.
Sure.
So, I would like to hear from the expert in the field right now. So, which was
All
your
right.
opinion? Which was your opinion about the Batu Batu resort? And according to you, which were the ways it can improve?
Oh man, is the Batu Batu CEO is gonna watch this, but no, I think for me it was reliving the reality of how tourism is, and I think this was probably the first project outside of my own work post pandemic, right? And the world before the pandemic and after is for hospitality very different, right? Like back then, things would roll, things would go, and then the pandemic just humbled everybody. We all got humbled, and tourism was hit really hard. I mean, everywhere, not just back home in Zim, but internationally, globally, right? And I saw more struggles. I mean, when we were at this resort, right? It was so obvious that the struggles are still there, right? In terms of staffing, in terms of loyalty of the workers, right? I mean, people had to go home, and I think people had to rethink if they want to come back to hospitality. And I think this is something that's been going across everywhere in the world, where people really think, do I really want to go back to hospitality? Maybe not, right? There are now so many more options post the pandemic that are remote, that are digital, more exciting, right? But yeah, I think being on that resort and just talking to the management, I could feel like the pain was real, because I know like you want your company to function, you want people to come, you want ABC to be done, but it's just not happening. But I guess like every other business, you keep pushing. You have to keep persevering. Even when you see your margins going into a negative, you have to be creative. You have to think outside of the box on how to, get more money coming in. And I think for them, it's even more unique because it's an eco resort, which it's not as cheap to do an eco resort as we want it to be, right? Like, of course, things are changing. ESG, sustainability, awareness is rising, but the companies like this who are still hitting the ground for everyone else in the industry, right? I mean, they get the first blows, right? Of the expenses of having certain things or foregoing certain ways of working just because you want to show that you're sustainable or you're eco-friendly. So I think I salute them. I respect the work that they're doing because it's a lot of groundwork. It's a lot of learning for the management. It's a lot of learning for even their grassroots workers. And the journey is long. So kudos to you, Batu Batu, and the whole team that is working there. Continue pushing. I mean, once something hits bottom rock, the only way is up, right?
That's true.
Yeah. So the only way is up.
And we also were thinking about the same, that during that time of our program, we experienced peak. But then there was a visit that we will revisit later. Sorry to be redundant. That was in Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Okay.
I want to revisit that for a little later because you were studying your undergrad bachelor's in Segi, and it took like 4 years, 5 years, I don't know how much.
Sure.
So what happened next?
So after my bachelor's, you
Yes,
mean?
yes.
I went back home. I went back to Zimbabwe to help my family business, which is also into tourism and hospitality. So we offer accommodation, we offer events, space, we offer catering. So it's more or less hospitality anyway. And I mean, like, parents are like, okay, now you're the learned one, right? You did your bachelor's in hospitality. Here you go. There's work to do. There's work to be done, and a lot of work had to be done. But I mean, I took it up, despite the challenges it will come with, right? But it's life. Whether it's your own business, whether you're working for someone, entrepreneur, whichever preneur you are, there's work to be done. And that was me for 3 years. After the bachelor's, I was on the ground working with my family, building up, renovating the place, finding new ways to reach out to our customers. And it went well, definitely for the first half until the pandemic came. So the pandemic came halfway through that journey of mine, being back home, and everything shut. We closed our doors. Our streets were quiet. We could hear all crickets at all times of the day. And like I say, the pandemic was tough. It was a tough time for businesses. But I guess in every crisis, there's always an opportunity. And maybe that's a story for another day. But I slightly went into some agricultural gigs.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was like my Zimbabwean time.
I'm happy to hear that because now that you have experience both in what you saw in Malaysia and what you have seen in Zimbabwe, which are the main similarities and also differences in the tourism industry?
I think overall, on whatever country you're from, there has to be an urgency to push further. I think hospitality can become almost, I don't know what the word would be, like, it can be not redundant. Okay, that sounds bad, but like it's routine. Okay, maybe that's a better way to phrase it. There's a lot of routine that you just need to come in, clock out, do what you need to do, tick 1, 2, 3 boxes. Like, it can be
It's like a
very
machine.
systematic. Yes. It can be that, but I think one thing that we need to work on both, whether in Zimbabwe or Malaysia, is to remember that hospitality is the warmth you give customers and clients. Because when it's systematic, it becomes like a machine. There is no emotion, there's no feeling, but that's not hospitality. The word hospitality itself is, reception, it's warmth, it's caring, it's going that extra step, right? So I think that's one thing that we always have to keep at the back of our mind as tourism or hospitality operators in whether it's a resort, hotel, any of the above, to just make sure that we keep the warmth alive, if I can put it that way. So I guess that's a way of saying similarities. So it's very systematic. I've seen on that both ends that when you just give someone a task, they just think of just doing the task. But hospitality is thinking outside of your task and saying, what can I do for this guest? Maybe just an extra note and an extra bottle of water next to their table, which you don't have to. Maybe it's not part of the list of things you need to do, but you just do it because you want to show that extra help. So I think that's a similarity and an improvement that we can work on both ends, Africa, Malaysia, Asia, whichever point. Yeah.
That's true. And given your experience, when was the moment you felt it's time to learn business?
I think it's back to, I mentioned that halfway the pandemic happened. I transitioned into a wholly, completely different business. And then so I think when I was on the ground, I felt that I wasn't well equipped in certain aspects of business. In terms of, so I mean, I don't have any problems with customer relations, talking to people. That I have comfort, but I think it was more on being more in, like, putting more depth. So like things like analysis, things like data, things like finance, things like even supply chain, just understanding these different aspects of business and how to improve either my personal business or even a corporate if I'm to work in a corporate, right? So that's when I was like, I think it's time to develop. So it's more personal development, career development. I was like, let me enroll into an MBA. And here we are, 16 months later, I guess, 16 months?
Around 16 months.
Yeah.
Across the many choices that you happen to see, what made you say it's time to go back to Malaysia?
I love this country, honestly. Like, I loved it when I came for my bachelor's. And fun fact, I actually wasn't having Malaysia as my first choice to come for an MBA. I did have like other countries, Canada, I had the States, I had UK, I had different parts of Europe, and I did apply. I actually applied to a lot of business schools, but unfortunately, either they were not taking in that time when I was applying, because I think a lot of countries were still transitioning out. So schools were not taking like internationals, or I would apply and actually not just get in, right? And then after speaking to my siblings, they're like, actually, why are you not applying to Malaysia? And I'm like, okay, you're right. I don't know why it wasn't like on top of my list. Because I think in my mind, I was like, I've been here. So perhaps I want to try a different culture, a different perspective. Other countries, maybe Europe, maybe the States. But that didn't happen. But I was like, okay, Malaysia it is, let's see. And I applied to other schools as well, not just ASB. And I also got rejections. I'm like, such is life, right? It is what it is. But then I was able to find ASB through my sibling. I didn't even know about the school, even prior to like being in Malaysia. Never heard of this school before. So my sister found it. I'm like, I don't think that's in KL. Is it possible? I would know. And she's like, it is. Give them a ring. And long story short, I got admitted, got a place, and now we're classmates, cohort mates.
Oh yeah, that's true. And I'm happy that this serendipity, successful and happy connection of events took place.
Yeah.
Because now we can retake that other part of our talk at the beginning, because we felt that Batu Batu was a peak of experience.
Sure.
But then there was something else, which was a visit to Cambridge, Massachusetts. What memories you have from that visit?
Oh, so many. So many. That trip was, I loved Boston. I loved, it's different. I mean, the weather, of course, coming from Malaysia, hot. Suddenly you have to wear 3 coats, a scarf, a hoodie, ear muffs, a mask, or you name it, right? Like knee long socks. I don't like cold.
Okay.
Yeah, let's just Let's just clarify on that.
That's the hard line. That's the
I
Rubicon.
Yes, I know you would wear shorts, and I'm like,
Oh yeah, we didn't tell about this story, right? So I guess it's fair to share what happened. So it was Sunday. It was literally the last Sunday of our trip because we have to leave the hotel on Saturday. But on Sunday, you texted the day before, like, "Hey, let's go to run. I'm gonna be on. You are gonna be on the bicycle, right?
I wanted to cycle,
And
yeah.
I will be running using my orange shoes."
Exactly.
And you asked Gina for a code to actually get the bicycles that were literally outside.
Thanks, Gina.
And it was blowing too cold outside, right?
Boston was like in the AMs. What time was that?
It was
7,
it was
6:30?
6:30 in the morning.
6:30 in the morning, and the weather was not kind. I was being, I don't know what, ambitious. I was being ambitious, and I was like, I need to at least have an early morning, because everyone kept talking about how it's nice to like jog around the Charles River in the morning, see the ducks, see the sunrise. Guys, I froze. My fingers, thank God I had gloves.
Yeah, you were wearing gloves.
But I still turned blue red. Like I literally froze. I didn't even complete that round of cycling. I went back halfway because I was freezing. I loved it. Yes, it was beautiful, for sure. If you can do it, do it. But I struggled with the cold, which is funny because Zimbabwe has winter, but still I can never like get used to the cold weather. But nonetheless, the weather was something else, but Boston was beautiful. I was happy to have met like even the locals in Boston. I did manage to meet a few people there, and they took me around to see some of the landmarks in Boston. And just being at MIT, the fact that you're just around these intelligent young youths, professors, it was just an enlightening season for me. Like I learned so much by just observing, like just seeing what people are doing, just hearing out different ideas that running in people's minds. That was Boston, and then I did manage to travel to other states. I managed to go all the way to Nashville, Tennessee,
Oh, beautiful.
which was that was
Welcome
a
to the
highlight.
South.
Yeah, that was funny. Not funny, but you know how you grow up watching TV, right? And I mean, Zimbabwe television is a lot westernized than any place anyway. So we have a lot of like American shows, British shows, right? And when you see like cowboys on TVs and the hats and the outfits, you would just think it's acting, right? I mean, at least I thought it's just for the show. And then I went to Nashville. And then I went into, I'm forgetting the street name, like one of the busiest streets in the evening. And I see, like, that's actually how they dress, that's how they talk. You know, I almost laughed when someone, like, asked me something in, like, the accent. Because it was, like, reality hitting me, like, that's actually how you talk. It's not just for movies, which is a bit bad of me, right? I should be more well-versed about cultures. But I think for me, that was a fun cultural experience to just hear them, see how they dress, how they eat, where they eat, how they dance, how they like it was.
So you saw some country dancing as well.
Oh yeah, a lot of dancing, a lot of singing. But they're nice people. Like I really felt comfortable just approaching anyone to ask for help when I was in Nashville. Although the transportation there it's like not good.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You cannot access trains or buses.
What is a train there?
There's no train.
What is a bus?
Exactly.
There is no bus. You need a pickup truck.
With sand at the back and cow dung.
Uh-huh.
So that was Nashville, and then I went to another part, which is Kansas City, which is
Which one? There are two. There are Kansas City, Kansas, and Kansas City, Missouri.
both.
Good.
I managed to see both because I mean, like their border is just like here and there, right?
Yeah.
So I stepped one foot there. So managed to see both ends. I had a few friends I was visiting, a few conferences happening there as well. So that was, I enjoyed the barbecue there. It reminded me, it was close enough to the taste of being back in Zimbabwe because we do a lot of barbecuing.
Okay.
We do a lot of braais. So for me, that was so close. I mean, I've never had barbecue as good in Malaysia, like something that was close to Zim as I had in Kansas. So that was nice.
Right now you are illuminating me on something because I feel very close to my heart the big fight between Kansas City and Austin in terms of barbecue.
Okay.
And now that you're mentioning, because they're kind of close,
Sure.
and now that you're mentioning that the Zimbabwe barbecue is close to the Kansas City.
It was well done. It was well done. I mean, now I don't know how. You said Austin, right? I've never been there and I've never tasted their barbecue, so I cannot compare those two.
Yes.
But for me, Kansas barbecue hit home. It hit
Why
the
I'm
soft
bringing this
spot.
up, hey guys, this is a $1 million opportunity. Like literally, there is nothing like a typical Kansas City or Texan barbecue outside US, and you're saying that there is like that in Zimbabwe.
I mean, maybe Zimbabwe is even better, right? I mean, we do our home base, like we do it at home. So it's like you marinate the way you want, you burn it to the extent you want.
The slow cook, sometimes a day.
So you make it work.
Yes, that's
You
true.
make it work. So yeah, that was Kansas. And then the other state I went to was New York. New York. Yeah, that was like, it's like it was my first time to the States, and I was like, there's no way I'm gonna go out of this country without at least seeing New York. Did I like it? Maybe not. I have my reserves, but it's a nice place to see. It's vibrant, a lot of youth, diverse kind of people, all sorts of people. So yeah, you do see it's more busier than, of course, the other states like Kansas and Texas. Those are more conservative, like it's different. So it was nice to just see Boston, New York, Kansas, and Tennessee.
It was fascinating to see that the train system in New York was somehow similar to the one in Boston or Cambridge. At the same time, yeah, I would say that people in Boston or people in Cambridge were a little more friendly than what you see in Lower Manhattan. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. If you are there, we know what we mean. But hey, that's life in the big city, right?
It is what it is. It is what it is.
I also have to remember that trip to New York because it was not on my schedule. I need to share with you how that happened
Sure.
because it was May, Saturday 14.
Okay.
It was around 8 o'clock in the morning. I was literally eating my pancakes and the sausages. And then all of a sudden I feel a presence that sits next to me. It was Najesa. Who
Oh.
literally asked, we have a small team going south to New York. Are you
Sure.
joining us? And it's like,
Okay. Why not? I'm already here.
so after we check out, we went to take the bus, the Greyhound bus, but there was a trick because my plane was from Boston. I left my luggage in the hotel,
Sure.
and they were saying, yeah, no problem, because you're coming back in 2 days, it's fine.
Sure.
But they had to go with their luggage because their planes were from New York.
Got it.
So when we arrived, all of a sudden they had to pay extra fees for the weight of
Luggage, yeah.
in the bus.
On the bus. Really?
Yeah, that happened.
Did they have that much extra? Okay. It's
I
a
don't know.
question
I
now
don't know what they got.
of the chance.
But it was funny because by the time we went south, we realized that, oh, look at that. The highways are okay, sometimes are a little stretchy. Yeah, we passed by New Haven and everything. And pretty much it was that whole Saturday. Saturday night we just eat some tacos in a local taqueria.
Sure.
And then on Sunday we went across the Roosevelt Island, we went to Chelsea, We went also to some parts of Lower Manhattan,
Nice.
and also we ended up close to Hudson Yards. That's why we put on Instagram the picture like escaping Hudson Yards, because that was a sale taking the picture. We
Right.
were literally getting out of Hudson Yards because it was a
Oh.
little too expensive.
Right. Okay.
A little too expensive, even
Okay.
for some taste. And that was pretty much the whole story. They stayed more days. I have to go back
Come back, yeah.
to to Boston, and then from the ground station, I literally had to walk, passing by the park, and then pass the Longfellow Bridge, and then towards the hotel to
Yeah.
reassemble the luggage, and then take the
Go
train
back
to
by
the
train.
airport.
At least the train was convenient.
Oh yeah.
It was very convenient to get to the airport. I'm like, I wish I knew when I arrived. But I guess when you're new to a place, you're just like, taxi is always the safest,
Oh yes.
right?
People, please, when you are in the local airport and you are going to the MIT Kendall station, $3. That's it.
Imagine. And like taking a taxi, I remember I did check because I wanted to take a taxi from. Where was I coming from? Oh, I'd come back from New York. Okay, I can't remember. But it was $100
Okay.
to get a taxi. 100, like a Benjamin note.
100 American dollars.
100 American dollars. I'm like, taxi it is. Not taxi, train it is. Because I'm like, the difference, right? But I mean, maybe it was like a peak hour. I don't know what spiked that price because I know that's not that's not the usual normal price. Probably it'll cost like what 20, 30, right? I think from the airport to our hotel should have costed.
From the local airport to the hotel, it should not be $100.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know what caused that spike in the price, and I'm like, no, we're gonna hustle it out with public transport.
Was the app Uber?
No, I
Was
think
Lyft?
it was Lyft.
Oh, so maybe.
I think
Okay, so
so.
there was something going on.
Something probably. Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
So maybe this following question can help understand a little more, because which day did you arrive? Close to Patriot Day, which was one of the holidays?
I think the day before, right?
Maybe, because
Yeah.
the day before is usually like the day of the big marathon. There is a parade and everything.
So,
Ah,
timing.
So train it is.
They need it.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the same dynamic also happens, for example, in Kuala Lumpur when you have Grab, and all of a sudden it's like I want to go from one place to another,
Yep.
using it, and there is everything is like it's raining outside, traffic not moving.
Oh,
Train
yes.
it is.
Train it is. Exactly, because one, you pay so much and then you get stuck in traffic for 2 hours. I don't think that's worth it, right? Might as well pay an affordable price and get there in 30 minutes.
Glad you're making your steps. After the trip that took place in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and all the states that you visited,
Try.
how was your summer? I bet that you were doing some special research, from what I remember, right?
Yeah, I worked for CSS, Center of Sustainable Small Owners, but it's a program under Procter and Gamble. So they they help smallholder farmers, which in relation to the palm oil, I think palm oil is one of the largest, Malaysia is one of the largest distributor of palm oil, especially within the region and internationally actually. And a lot of disadvantages would happen for the smallholder farmers. And that's why I think this program was more or less birthed. So it's between PNG and ASB. So they birthed this baby called CSS to help farmers, especially the local Malay, the B40s, underprivileged, but who are actually like in those states. So the main plant is in Johor, which is closer to Singapore. And that's where most of the teams are based, as well as here in KL, which is just here. But for me, I was more helping on their marketing. So they have like program books that they wanted to curate, a lot of synthesizing of information that had to happen more on the PR, how to position themselves, how to find sponsorships. I don't know if I should be sharing this, but yeah, more or less that was it in a nutshell. And I was helping on that for 3 months, slightly more than 3 months. Yeah, that was my summer,
Mm-hmm.
working closely with Professor Assad and the PNG personnel as well.
That sounds like a lot of action.
It is. I mean, the team, you really, I guess when you get involved in projects like this, you really see the work that happens on the back end. You know how sometimes you always see things all rosy or well presented, but I guess the work that happens behind the scenes is the reality of it, right? For it to then become this flower that blossoms. So it was a good learning experience. I learned a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Talking about flowers that blossoms, I'm aware about how many of our cohorts have been blossoming throughout this experience.
Sure.
So, how you felt you was being growing through this experience in personal?
For in this experience as an MBA
Uh-huh.
student,
Yes.
oh, so much growth, so many personal challenges that you have to overcome. Like, I remember the first term was the most intense, and a lot of imposter syndrome um, happened, not just for me, even just for our classmates, where you are in this room and you hear all the smart people, you hear how people answer and articulate their thoughts, their ideas. And to myself, I'm just thinking, hey, I'm just this young girl from Zimbabwe, and do I have anything of value to offer to the table, right? I mean, it's thoughts like that you have to, that I had to battle with throughout the journey. And I think throughout looking at it back now, I think I see so much growth in me personally to overcome those hurdles and to know my worth, to know that I add value, I capture and add value. And I think it takes a lot of courage, a lot of internal conviction, internal strength to tell yourself first before externals tell you, like friends and family. Of course, that's great, but I always feel like it's important to internalize positive thoughts, internalize your capabilities, so that it can be exhibited, right? It can also, and then when you hear it from people, you accept it and you receive it, because sometimes we receive words of affirmation, we receive positive words from people, and we tend not to believe it because internally we don't believe it. So for me, I think this whole journey has been a lot of personal development within, to put myself in a position where I know who I am, I know my worth, and I know what I cannot give at that particular time. And that's just on a personal side. But in terms of uh, intellect, of course, the courses have been on point. They've been good. The practical experiences have also been value adding, to actually see how companies tackle new problems in different industries, not just hospitality, but I worked with a garment manufacturer, I worked with also different projects. I think 5 projects so far, right? I mean, I just did a business practicum with the juniors as well. And every time your brain just gets challenged, and you learn new ways of overcoming these challenges.
Talking about challenges and talking about things that were practiced, there was a time and also a place that you also visited for this kind of projects, Vietnam.
Mm.
Can you tell me what you've seen in Vietnam?
Oh, Vietnam was different, very different from Malaysia in terms of culture, in terms of people, work ethics. They are people, I mean, in terms of ethics, Malaysians work and work and work and work 24/7. They can, or they place themselves in a position that, I mean, okay, I can't generalize this, that would be unfair. But at least from my friends and communities, people work nonstop. Like, breaking is like, especially after the pandemic, there's a thin line between breaks and when I need to stop working, right? But when I went to Vietnam, oh, they're strict with their time. If I tell you 5 o'clock is when I finish, you will not catch them after 5 o'clock in the office.
Okay.
Like work emails, I remember we'd always have to push our emails and make sure that it's within the working hours because that's the only time. Here, if I send out an email like at 9 p.m., someone will probably reply it at 11:30. You get it? Like that's what I mean. Like people continuously work even when they're home. Like not office, but their mind continuously is alert of, oh, there's an email I saw getting in my phone. Let me just quickly reply. But that was different when I went to Vietnam. Like if you're calling them after 5, it better be going out for drinks.
Yeah.
And not to say, hey miss, tomorrow's meeting is being rescheduled. They're gonna reply to that email at 8 in the morning. So and they start their day early as well. Like I think work here, people start kicking in at 9, like replying to emails and getting more active. For them, it's 8 in the morning. So I think they have an early start to their day, and they start getting active from then, and then kind of say, okay, by 5:30, time up. So that was interesting. It was a different perspective of just seeing how people work.
I have to chip in because I saw something related right there in Bangkok. I got the opportunity to be there for the Action Learning project. They also have like a kind of, it's not hardline policy. It's still a little in between Vietnam and Malaysia, as you described. About the time that they leave, maybe 5 to 6
I want to
p.m.
sneeze. Can I pause?
It's fine. You can do that.
Oh my gosh, I'm like holding it, but I think it went back.
It's fine.
Okay, pause. Let me go to the washroom first.
Yeah, we can pause right now. Yeah, I just pause.
One debt to society later.
True that you mentioned about what happens in Vietnam, because I also have to recall what happened in Bangkok. And after these technical difficulties, we can actually mention that right there it was like an hybrid between these two places, because they usually have like a broad line policy between 5 and 6 p.m. They usually start around 9 o'clock in the morning, maybe 8 o'clock in the morning. But that also led to something else. If everybody finishes around the same time, that means that traffic, you will meet everybody in the traffic.
Exactly.
That's a problem. I remember, we literally were like coming back from an Indian restaurant, and we were like, no, not stop here. The driver was suggesting to leave us on that place. We were saying, no, let's leave at the hotel.
Sure.
That was a mistake.
You should have just gotten off.
Because then we had to go like half an hour in the middle of the traffic just to go back to where we're supposed to drop at the hotel, instead of just taking the little bridge. Yeah, it was something.
Yeah, I think I've never been to Bangkok, but I heard the traffic is terrible. I don't know, but I think Vietnam has a lot of more motorbikes. I think more motorbikes than cars. I felt like they flooded the roads more than cars. So I think it's faster for navigation, cheaper as well. If like you're getting public transport, you just hop onto a cycle, a Grab cycle, whatever service, and you literally get anywhere. So it wasn't that bad, honestly.
That's true. And now, something that I wanted to reflect was, and this is a self-critique in the region, how different they were treating certain people from one region to another. For example, when we were in the hotel, we got this little inconvenience that for no reason they asked Orelua to say he has to pay for the package of the breakfast when everybody was on the same.
Gosh, shame.
And it was like, well, by the time I was on the Chakotay market, they were asking different prices for, let's say, like Molly than, let's say, to me. So I'm not sure if you experienced that as well.
In Vietnam or in Malaysia?
In Vietnam.
In Vietnam. I think that was more apparent when I did shopping.
Okay.
I mean, I was in Ho Chi Minh City, right? And there's a lot of foreigners, but it's typical. It's not just, I think it wasn't just for me, but when they see foreigners, the price automatically multiplies.
Multiplies. It doesn't add. It multiplies.
No, it multiplies. Literally. Like, I would have like maybe, because I would hear, right? Like, let's say you get to a place, you observe, and then maybe someone passes by, they ask, how much is this? And then they say, it'll be $2. And then I come and ask for the same thing, and then they say it's $8. And you'd be like,
I happened to hear it was only 2.
then I have no strength to fight them. But when you walk away, then they try to like pull you back, right? So that was the funniest thing in Vietnam. Honestly, shopping in Vietnam was literally they would break down their price by themselves by just walking away. You know, like let's say they say $8, and I'm saying okay, I don't even negotiate. I just walk away because I'm like $8 is I'm not gonna pay that for $8, right? And then they say no, miss. Give me 6. And then I say, I don't have 6. Give me 4. Until we get maybe to like 250 or something. Then I would be thinking in my mind, there's no business sense. There's no way you're gonna come from $8 if that was the original price to $2.50. That means the price was already within that range, right? So it was always like that when I did like market. Like this is open bazaar, open shopping, not like in actual malls. But this is like on the street mall shopping. So it was always like, and they'll drag you, miss, I'll give it, how much do you have?
Wait a second.
Yes. Every time, oh my gosh, that was like the best experience of shopping ever. Traumatizing because they really are aggressive.
Oh.
Like they will pull you and yeah, it is what it is. But it was, and then they'll be like, okay, how much do you have? Do you have? And I'll say I have $1.50, and I'm like, no, miss, increase a bit. You know, like they'll try to speak, and if I really want it, I'll make sure like, okay, let's agree on something that I know is, even if it's a rip-off, but I know in my mind I'm willing to pay. You get it, right? So I always have my reserve price, right? To say, okay, I'm not surpassing that amount. So that was shopping in Vietnam, very entertaining. But in terms of culture as an African, you could tell that there were not a lot of Africans in Ho Chi Minh during, I could count the number of Africans I saw. And I don't even know if they're Africans. They could actually be Black Americans. Mm-hmm. Like they could be from any part of the world. And I could literally count once a day, or not even any day, but there was a lot more Europeans, a lot more Americans. So I think even for the locals, they're more accustomed to the European. So when they'll see me, they'll be more fascinated by maybe the hair or the clothes or scarves or the
Even the accent.
Even that. Okay, my accent, not really, because I don't know people.
Are you from London?
Unfortunately. No, fortunately. I'm not. But I mean, people say African accent, which there's nothing called an African accent because there's 54 countries in Africa. So you cannot say we have.
And you have 3 regions, right? The above Sahara,
North, South, East, West, right? Middle as well. It's all different. Just the southern part of Africa itself is already so diverse. Like, I have no idea how to speak Tswana, which is both from Botswana. And I have no idea how to speak Lesotho, the language from Zambia.
Okay.
Right? Is that diverse just within southern Africa, right? Yet alone talk about Egypt, yet alone talk about Nigeria, Kenya, talk about Djibouti. It's different. So when people say African accent, you don't have an African accent. I'm like, what really is an African accent, right? Let's break it down. Nigerian accent, Ugandan accent, then now we're talking, right? But for Zimbabweans, I always say Zimbabweans never have an accent. I don't know, I think we're too westernized. But I don't know, if you hear me talking to my Malaysian friends, you'll probably hear my Malaysian accent. Which you probably won't, because this community of ours is very diverse, international, so it's like accustomed to that. But if you find me really like in my shorts and my nasi lemaks with my local friends, can la, boleh la, cannot la, like that one. You see? All the Malaysian slang and accents start to come out.
that means there is not only the Zimbabwean Thandi but also the Malaysian Thandi.
Oh, for sure.
So
Which unfortunately many have not seen.
that also, I'm led to believe that you also speak Bahasa, right?
Not really. Sikit. Just I can understand it. I
Okay.
can hear it, but the speaking part, unfortunately, I wish I actually took it more seriously to learn Bahasa and Mandarin, but I didn't. So that's boohoo on me.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair to hear and also to understand. And how different are these two Thandis to each other?
Very different. Very different. I think. Oh man, I don't know. I think this version of me is like powerhouse, power girl. Give me a podium now, and I will, do that. And then when I come to like the Malaysian version, I mean, not to say that I can't do that, but it's more like home, like chilled. Like when you're in your pajamas and when you're in stilettos. It's different, right? Okay, stiletto. I can't give that example.
Like
'cause
cowboy
you don't.
shoes.
Yes.
Cowboy boots.
Like when you're full suit with your tie and when you're slumpy and you're in pajamas. That's different. So it's more or less like that. Like this version is like, okay, let's do this. And then that version is like, chill, Netflix. Yeah. So.
Now, behind every detail there's a story, and I bet you feel that question coming up. Tell me a little more about the detail that you have on your hair, because you mentioned me, and I'm willing to be educated that you mentioned that African woman has been wearing this for centuries.
Sure.
And I remember, little confession time. I remember when I was dancing in Skylers, I met a woman from Lisboa. Her name was Francesca, tall African Portuguese woman, and she was also wearing something like what you're wearing right now.
Nice.
And it was like, this is interesting,
Yeah.
very interesting. So, tell me a little more about that story and how important is it in the culture of African women in general.
I mean, it's not just headscarves; it's just accessories as well. I
Uh-huh.
think we're big on accessories, color, accent. This is like an accent, right? Like it speaks. It's a conversational piece, if I can put it that way. And I think, I mean, I do not know the history. Honestly, I would be like not the best person to give what the history of it was. But growing up, we have always been surrounded by like material, colorful material, cloth. So we'll do headscarves, and this can be tied a million ways.
Oh,
It can be in different sizes, this small, that long, square, triangle, whatever shape.
oh, okay.
And then you can just have fun with it. I think for us, it's specifically for headscarves, right? I think it just illuminates the beauty that already exists, right? It just gives a certain posture, a certain structure to your look. And I mean, my culture, we believe that your hair or your head is your glory. It's called a crown. Like we are wearing our crown, our hair is a crown, and it's our glory. So you wear it proud. You wear it with confidence. It's supposed to build these kind of attributes of like you're beautiful, you're worth it, you're phenomenal, you're a woman, and happy Women's Month, everybody. But exactly. And that's it. And I love it so much, especially being in a foreign land. Because at home, when your eye is so accustomed to something and you're used to it, you don't appreciate it as much. Because everybody's wearing it, or everybody has it. Or it's really the moms, the moms even have like different versions and big fascinators, and that's something else. So you get used to it. But then when you come to a foreign land, and you're not seeing a lot of it here, you're like, hey, this is my chance to show my culture, show where I come from. Unfortunately, Zimbabwe doesn't have like specific, let's say, like kind of material or like tradition that's, I mean, we do, but it's not as apparent like, let's say, maybe Nigeria. They are very, their culture is like really, really good and deep. So, and they acknowledge that. So I think across different African countries, we've been able to overlap certain things in terms of sharing cultures of the material, sharing how to tie and things like that. But yeah, being here and I do this, it makes the eyes turn, right? Everyone will be like, wow, tell us more. And that's my chance to say I'm from Zimbabwe and I'm here and etc. Share my story. But yeah, we also have neck chains, earrings, full on outfits. I think you have seen some of these before. Like the guys, when they wear their full outfits, girls, they have their skirts and tops and jackets. That's us. We are colorful, we're vibrant, full of energy, I guess, and these are kind of like the pieces that help us to illuminate that.
You mentioned the energy, full of vibrant air. And I believe you're building something right now.
Sure.
So what are you building now?
Yes, thank you for mentioning. I actually am starting accessories and fashion business.
Okay.
It's called Runako Brands. RUNAKO .brands is the IG account. Do follow. And
We're gonna put that account in the description.
yeah, check it here. There. But yeah, I mean, because a lot of people would always ask me about these brand, like my accessories, right? And they'll like it. They'll say, "Hey, when are you bringing accessories from Zimbabwe or any other part of Africa, right?" And I never thought of it that much until I went back home during December, and I was just talking to my family, and I was like, I always have people asking like, where do you get this? Where can we get it here? And I'm like, I'm gonna bring it. So I'm gonna bring this to my Asian community and see how that goes. And so far the response has been good. People look fabulous. I came with summer shorts. I have shirts. I have earrings. Oh, I should have brought it. I brought earrings and different kinds of accessories, wallets, sling bags. You can follow our account and you can check out as we post. But yeah, I was like, why not see my Asian friends actually wearing African clothes? I mean, we also wear like Asian clothes, right? Like Chinese, we wear the cheongsam. During Indian festivals, we wear like all the different kind of clothes. I'm like, why not have this interchange of culture as well? So still navigating that out. It really is at the beginning, doing a lot of market research, trying to understand people's preferences and how best I can serve them.
Given that you have decent knowledge experience and you already have some connections in Vietnam, I guess that's an avenue to start doing something very big.
Yeah, I mean, the vision is there. So would definitely appreciate all the support, especially at the beginning. Like every other business, right? The beginning is always a lot of digging to be done, conscientizing your people, your audience. So yeah, that's Runako Brands. You'll see all the different kinds of accessories there. So do follow and buy and purchase.
Yeah, exactly. Contribute to this local business.
Exactly.
Because the local business is the backbone of every country.
Of
Yes.
everything, of every community.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I believe that things are going in parallel, and we mentioned about these countries, and I remember there has been talks to visit this other place called Hong Kong, and in the back before discussing those, we were mentioning about that little place that is a little on the south of Johor,
Batu Batu.
a little way south, Singapore.
Singapore, right.
I believe you've been there before, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what have you seen there that you didn't see in these other places, like Vietnam, like the other parts of Malaysia?
Well, when I went to Singapore, it was a while back, and I actually want to make another visit to see how it is now, because I'm sure how it was back then and now is probably very different. And when I went there at that time, it was more like pure tourist. Like I wasn't even bothered about anything else, but just enjoying the place. But it's very vibrant. But I think there's so much you can do in the city. Like a month is already so much in Singapore. Like, I mean, as a tourist, you hit all the landmarks, right? It's different from Malaysia. I mean, it's also a small country, so fair enough. Definitely well developed for their capacity. But I guess for Malaysia, like I mentioned earlier on, nature for me is big. Organic, like the real natural nature, not artificially built, right? For me, it's like I enjoy more of those kind of sceneries. So Malaysia for me is like a big win on that. Even Vietnam actually wasn't too bad. I mean, I didn't get to go to parks or anything, but yeah, the city was lively, was vibrant. And then in Singapore, people are very busy. I mean, I think it's just a cultural thing. Like people are just like rushing to work. It felt almost like a Boston, if I can put it that way. Like people are like always on their AirPods, their phone, they're talking, they're having business meetings in the train, they're on the go. That was like kind of like Boston, so I can see that the similarities there, which is not the case for Malaysia. Like I mean, I did mention they work, but I think there's a lot more casualness in the work. Like literally, a business meeting can happen at a mamak eating roti canai and teh tarik. That's Malaysia, right? I think it's a bit more different in Singapore, where it's like if it's a meeting, it's in a boardroom, or it's more not as casual. I mean, that's my perspective. That's how I've observed it so far. But I would want to make another trip soon to just see how different it is now. Yeah.
I also came to a realization that it will be a lazy assumption to say that you are only an African woman, because your experience also tells you have adopted the Asian culture to also be an Asian woman. We have been watching through the trips and also through the action learning
Sure.
that more people from Africa should be here at least to see what is going on.
Right.
Any 2 cents you want to bring on this perspective?
I think actually Malaysia has a lot of students from Africa. I mean, post pre-pandemic, right? Now a lot of things have changed, but I still feel like the pull for these countries in terms of pulling in students from Africa is not too bad. The problem and the shrink happens in the workforce, in work permits and employment in countries like Malaysia, Singapore. Yeah, opportunities are definitely there, but the funnel is really small. It really shrinks. They mass out, get all the students in, and after that, it's always you have to go back home, which is unfortunate because I mean, I'm sure you can find talent from this pool of people that you've educated, right? And I think that's where my heart kind of breaks. But it's only I don't know. It's a two-sided situation, right? It depends who you are and what perspective you're looking at from. Looking at it from someone who would want opportunity, of course, I'll be frustrated to say, why can't these countries give Africans more opportunities? We have the talent, we have the brain, we have it, right? But then when you look at it as well as from maybe the perspective of immigration, government, institution, they also have an obligation to protect their own, right? They'll always have to. They cannot think of the whole world. They cannot be saviors of the whole world, but they can be for their community, for their people. And in a way, I am frustrated, but I also understand that countries will always want to protect jobs and secure jobs for their own. So I think it's painfully difficult. That is the reality, and if ever you get an opportunity that's unique, jump on it. But if not, that's also the painful fact of the world we live in, right? And I think if it was like that, maybe for African countries, we wouldn't be having this need to be even abroad. If our own African countries could do the same and say, we are not allowing Europeans or Asians to come in first, we're going to take our own people first and then consider you. You get it? I wish that was the concept pasted there. Then it wouldn't be, we want to, I think you get where I'm going. Like, it wouldn't be the case of, we want to work here because we can't find opportunities at home, right? If those opportunities are being availed by our own institutions, our own immigration, our own governments, I honestly will be back home right now, honestly speaking, because Africa has so much potential right now. It's buzzing, it's booming, but we have a lot of challenges within our own institutions and within our own governments, within our own political arenas, right? So yeah, that's my 2.5 cents.
And I really welcome that, because this is also a part of a Thandi that not many people usually see, at least on very frequent level.
Sure.
And I'm happy that you decided to share this with you.
Yeah.
Now, I want to step back a moment, because a lot of young people will be watching this, and also young Thandis will be watching this.
Hi, young Thandiwes.
So, which piece of advice will you give to your younger self?
Oh, wow. Okay, young Thandiwes out there. I think I would say, don't let the world define you first. Define yourself first. Know your worth. Know what you want. I mean, knowing what you want is relative, right? But at least have a sense of the direction you want to go. And it's okay to fail. I think that's one thing that the world sometimes doesn't say loud enough. Maybe now it's being said more, but back then maybe it wasn't, to the younger self, right? That failure is part of the journey and it's okay. You get up. We have this verse that says, a righteous man falls 7 times, but 1,000 times, but you get up, right? You keep going, you keep pursuing to the goals that you want. And
Maybe, I don't know.
yeah,
I don't feel any rain.
yeah, but I mean that's the advice I'll give. But don't let the world define you. Make sure that your mind is set to what you want. Be confident. Be okay with making mistakes. Keep growing. Keep developing yourself, because you're worth it, girl and guy, young Thandiwes.
Yeah, that's true. I
Yeah.
cannot find a most beautiful way to close this episode. How can people find you?
Alright, if you want to find me, you probably won't, but I'm kidding. Instagram, but I'll probably curate who you are first.
That's
Private
a bad
account.
Thandi.
I'm like, where you from? I'm kidding. I do not discriminate. Instagram is probably the most active social media platform I'm on, so Thandiwe, you'll find me there, but you can also find the brand that I'll be selling, which is runako.brands. And yeah, if ever you want to catch up, perhaps I can create some coffee chats time with you, I hope. Busy schedules. But yeah, feel free to reach out. Yeah. If you have further questions, reach out to him and he'll let me know if you guys want to hear more or anything of the likes.
Thandi, I really enjoyed doing this, so thanks for doing it.
Thank you for the opportunity. Finally, I get to sit on the lawn with Mr. FVR.
And for people out there, please stay safe and see you when I see you. Bye.
Take care.
That was good. That was good.
And it's a wrap.